Good morning, everyone. Look at that. Technology. You can teach a more mature person how to use technology. There's all these buttons and things I have to flick on and off, and I worked, and you can hear me. So it's really great to be here today. It's so good to see faces, some with masks, some without. I don't care. I'm so glad you came here today, and because, you know, God's given me, He's placed a message on my heart for each and every one of you, and also for our digital people as well. You know, it's great that they can join us either now or in the future, but I'm really, really grateful for each and every person coming here. And it's a privilege for me to be able to share about a topic that's quite close to my heart and I'm an advocate for, which is life groups. I've just got to remember to use this technology in my hand. Oh, man. There we go. So as Phil said, today I've titled this message, Sharing is Caring. It's a bit of a corny way, not quite as corny as coin in your ear, but equally as, oh, that's very clever by the way, I'd never heard that. Equally as corny and hopefully as catchy that you'll remember what today's message was called. So sharing is caring. Now just to recap as well, the 5 purposes of life groups. So Phil mentioned the first one being friendship. Today is all about care. So we're halfway through our series, unpacking the biblical purposes of life groups and small groups. Next week we'll be having prayer, and Pastor Caleb will unpack that. Then we'll have one about discipleship and then evangelism as well over the next coming weeks. Now, we don't want you feeling unnecessary pressure to have to join a life group. We strongly believe in them, and that's why we're wanting to unpack it all with you so that at the end of the series, or even throughout the series, that you can make a really well-informed decision about whether or not you want to jump into one and gain the many benefits that we are advocates for. So on there you'll see Acts 2, the scriptures that I'm going to be kind of sharing around today, the theme. In Acts 2 it says, they gave to anyone as he had need. And then part of the Great Commandment and the Great Commission was to love your neighbour as yourself. So that's kind of the underpinning scriptures of today about sharing. So, oh man, this is so clicky. Bear with me. You can teach an old dog new tricks. So what is sharing? Do you like that one? The number of times, you know, like my kids have shared germs with me and I'm like, just stay away. I don't want that kind of loving. I don't want that kind of sharing. And I just thought you could all probably relate to that. It's probably not politically correct in this time of COVID, but don't tell anyone, okay? Or maybe sharing and caring looks more like this. You know, if you've got young children, sharing food, either with a sibling, a friend, they don't care about germs. The same with dirt and hugs, you know, they don't care about that. Or sharing maybe a little treasure that they've found. Or maybe for us who like to be a little bit on the more cleaner side, it could be sharing a meal. Maybe that's what sharing and caring means to you. Or being with a group of friends. And I think in that photo, use your imaginations. Like, you know, do you think that one lady is trying to help the other one read what the words say because they're not very, the eyesight's maybe not very good, or who knows, maybe they're reading a map, reading a joke, don't know. But nonetheless, it's all about sharing and caring. Now, our life groups show that they care for each other. Oh, sorry, I've just got a little disclaimer. So while a lot of you may be thinking that caring and sharing in life groups is all about money, giving away your money, I want to just say that is not the primary aim of caring within life groups. So please do not switch off if that's what you're thinking of. Within a life group model, you know, people, they care for each other within their group and the church. You know, they provide support for each other. They minister to each other's needs. They serve in the local church. They show compassion and provide charity and meals to each other. Basically, they're displaying kindness and concern for others. And this care often goes far wider than that smaller group of people and into the greater body of Christ. Sometimes too, caring, showing care for someone involves sharing of resources other than money, like wisdom or life experience, or praying for someone when they're going through a time of need. It could be loaning your spiritual muscle to somebody else. It could be sharing insights and revelations that you've gained from the Word, and that encourages somebody else as well. So our life groups are more than just a place of meeting together weekly, fortnightly. We also engage and we meet the needs within the body of Christ as well. And again, sometimes that's practically, like serving on a roster here on the Sunday. Or it could be financially, like a couple of weeks ago when we gave financially to Lawson to just bless him in India and to see the kingdom of God be extended in India in that great time of need of COVID. And to each and every one of you who gave, a big thank you. We actually raised together corporately a couple of $1,000, just us. And that's amazing when you think we're not a big group of people, but yet our heart to bless someone else who's in need is just amazing. And sincerely from the pastors and also from Lawson, there was a little clip that went out as well this week in the newsletter, just from him. Heartfelt thanks to each and every person who gave, because every cent we gave made a difference. Now for me, back in 2010, Phil and we decided to move our family here from Orange in New South Wales. And I was looking for work, and God provided me with a great job. I was working in childcare, and it was a real answer to prayer. We needed the extra income, and God made a way for me. Over a period of probably about 18 months, it got really, really tough. And the culture became a little bit toxic, the environment, and for various reasons. And it became quite difficult. And there were so many days that I would be getting ready for work and just going, oh God, I know this is a job from you, but it is so tough, God. I just don't want to be going today. It's just too hard. I'm going to have to put up with nastiness in the work environment, and difficult children with behavioural needs, children with disabilities, and there wasn't enough funding for them to be able to get care. And so it was a really, really tough spot to be in. And I mentioned this to our little life group at the time, and they knew that I was struggling, and I was getting them to pray for another job for me. I knew I couldn't leave the job until God opened up the next job for me, because again, I knew that was a God-given job. And so they prayed with me over a number of weeks. And one day, one of the ladies in the group, she had when she was praying, she saw this vision, and she said, Leanne, I believe you're going to be, God has a job out there for you, and it's going to have a blue uniform. I'm like, okay, I'll hold on to that. And I kept just, holding on to that, and got a phone call, went for an interview, and I happened to say to the lady when she rang me about the job, I said, oh, look, by the way, does it have a uniform? And she says, yes, and I said, oh, what colour? And she goes, oh, it's blue. And I'm going, oh, okay. Went for the interview and got the job. I actually ended up working as a ward clerk in a theatre, and I was wearing scrubs, blue scrubs. So just, God was so kind. He used those people in the life group to kind of, keep me not losing hope, but that God did have great plans for me in the future. Now at that time, I didn't need money. I didn't need someone to come and cut my grass, wash my car, give me a meal. Mind you, all of those are nice. But what I needed was the ongoing, the care and the prayer and the support of that small group of people that, we had joined. And we hadn't even been here that long, at that point in time. We were still, relatively new here. Now for you, have you ever been feeling a little bit blur, a little bit emotionally flat maybe? And, someone has come up to you and said, look, how are you going? How are you really going? And they've given you the time and the space to be able to share how you're really going. They actually genuinely care. Or maybe, you've been sick and someone has said, look, hey, can I pray for you? And again, you didn't even have to ask them. Or maybe you've been the one offering, the prayer or whatever. Maybe you've been out having a coffee with someone or a meal in a cafe and they've just said, look, my shout, don't worry about it. I just want to bless you. And they've shared their resources with you. Or maybe you've been the one doing that as well. There's many, many ways that we can show that we care for another person. So no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. And Aesop, who was an ancient Greek author, actually wrote that. And it's really important for us to remember, that even the smallest act of caring, it can have great rippling effects, great consequences. Now, at the beginning, there was those two scriptures that I mentioned about love your neighbour as yourself, and they gave to anyone as he had need. Now, when it talks about loving your neighbour, it doesn't mean you have to, you might only like them. It means taking care of others in the same way you care about yourself. Like we all care about ourselves, getting up in the morning, eating, showering, all of that sort of stuff. We care. And it's in the same way that we need to care about other people and what's going on in their lives, because they're made in the image of God as well, just like us. I want you to think about in Acts 2 when it says, they gave to anyone who had need. So here's this bunch of people. They weren't in the church necessarily like this, but something caused them to show great charity to one another. Something caused them to meet the needs of each other and to minister to each other. Now, as humans, we're all basically selfish, yet for some reason, that group of people back there were not acting selfishly. They were, caring about others. And I believe that the reason that behaviour happened way back then, and many of them had not even met Jesus as well, but I believe that behaviour came from Jesus' teaching and his actions, and the disciples and those who had heard about Jesus had role modelled that, and those people had role modelled that, and so on and so on. Again, Jesus was someone who was always giving away what had been given to him from heaven. He was always showing kindness to those around him. And he was the one who was distributing miracles from heaven to those around him. He was distributing healing power, heavenly wisdom, understanding, unconditional love, all these things that were coming from heaven. He was the distributor of those to the people around him. And I believe that in the same way, those people in Acts 2, when they gave to everyone who had need, that they had seen that role modelled, and they then were outworking that as well. So today we're going to look at a story that's recorded in 4 Gospels, all 4. And it's where Jesus feeds 5,000 people. Hence my little prop here, which I will get to very soon. Now, you may have heard this story before. You might even be able to tell it better than what I can tell it. But I believe that God wants us to go a little bit deeper today. And I ask that you would use your imaginations. Focus on even that picture. It's a great picture. Like there's this man and he's got this little crowd of people around him and he's just sharing what heaven is saying to him. He's sharing about, the kingdom of God and how God would like us to treat other people. So if you want to, close your eyes and imagine. Do not fall asleep though. Or focus on the picture as I just, run through this story and just unpack it a little bit deeper. Now, it starts off that, Jesus and his disciples, they had just heard that John the Baptist, who was Jesus' cousin and a great prophet, that he'd just been beheaded, which was a pretty tragic way to die. So they had tried to escape the crowds and to go cross over the Sea of Galilee to kind of get away and to process what had just gone on. But there was just so many people that had witnessed Jesus' miracles and witnessed heard his great teachings. And so they found out where he was. It might have been a totally different crowd of people, but they still nonetheless, they flocked to him. And it was around the time of the Passover, and so there was a lot of people kind of in and around that area. And again, they came towards him. And Jesus looks up from his little place of isolation, and he doesn't tell them to go away or anything. Instead, he says to one of the other disciples called Philip, he goes, hey, what are we going to do? Where are we going to buy bread for these people? Now, he already knew what was going to happen, of course, because he's Jesus and he knows everything. But he was asking this. Am I still on? Yep. He was asking this just to test Philip and to see what Philip's response was going to be. Because not long before that, the disciples had actually been out in twos, and they had performed amazing miracles in Jesus' name. And so, Jesus, I think, was just sussing him out. Do you remember what used to happen, what, had previously happened? Now, Philip answers and he goes, Jesus, it would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have just one bite. Now, firstly, so there's two problems. Firstly, they didn't even have enough money, to be able to buy bread. Can you imagine if right now, this minute, we had to buy food for 5,000 people, men, plus women and children? Like, imagine trying to go to Coles. Imagine trying to go to Baker's Delight. Like, there wouldn't be enough food there for 5,000 people. And secondly, it's like, well, where would they even go? To be able to... So firstly, they didn't have the money, and secondly, there was just nowhere close by to be able to get the food. Now, Philip was thinking in terms of what he could see in the natural. Jesus was thinking of the unseen. And sometimes, we can't see the solution to a problem. We can't see it. But yet Jesus knows the answer. He is the solution. And he can unpack that solution and distribute that solution from heaven at the right time. Sometimes he chooses to do it by himself. Sometimes he chooses to give it to a person to distribute to us down here on earth. So then there's this other disciple called Andrew. And he goes, oh man, he doesn't go man, he goes, here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 little fish. But how far is that going to go amongst so many people? How many people do you think are here today? I don't know, 100-ish or something, or I don't know. So, I have 5 little loaves. And then I have some little fish. Now, I didn't know, again, work with me. Use your imaginations, okay? Little fish. No. There we go. Like when Andrew says, well, look, there's this little boy who's got 5 loaves and 2 fish. I wonder what the response of the other disciples would have been, or those who were around. Would they have just been laughing and going, are you serious? Or maybe he had remembered, hey, a little while ago we'd been out doing miracles in Jesus' name. Don't know. But you kind of just go, in the natural, these 5 loaves, I'm just going to put one up here, and the fish, 1 crumb. There wouldn't have even been enough for 1 crumb for each person to have. So, I don't know, I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe you do. But I just think it's good for us to ponder, the deeper things, and to not just, when God provides a miracle, he's doing it for a reason. He's trying to show us something, show us his greatness, his kindness, his love for us. And it would be such a shame to just be a little bit blasé about it. And that's why I just feel to go a little bit deeper here. Did you ever wonder how the little boy got the attention of Andrew? Where were his parents? Like, what had he done that morning? What do little boys back then even do? Had he had to do chores? Was it safe for him to be away from his family? Had he travelled very far? It actually says, and I've just got to find the right, it actually says that they were barley loaves. And barley was it was like a grain that they used to feed to their animals. So quite likely this boy was from a poorer family and his mum had given him food for whatever reason. Maybe this little boy was going to take the bread and sell it to somebody else because he saw a crowd and maybe he saw an opportunity to make some money. I don't know. But even like the little fish, it says that it would have probably have been little tiny salted ones, used like a relish or whatever. So, again, sometimes in my imagination in the past, I've looked at it and thought, oh yeah, decent sized fish kind of thing, So again, kind of God, he took the big things, and maybe they were really big loaves, but probably they might have even been smaller than this, and just some teeny tiny little dried up fish. But Jesus placed great value on the boy and what he offered him. So Jesus says, have everyone sit down. There was plenty of grass around. Jesus wasn't in a hurry. He, at that point in time, he really was being that shepherd, and he was getting them to lie down or sit down in the green pastures. And he was about to prepare a great table for them. And then Jesus, he took the loaves and he gave thanks and he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. And then he did the same with the fish. Now, the little boy's belly was probably more full from everything he ate than what just eating 5 loaves and a couple of fish. And it actually, Jesus, he gave thanks to his Father for what he did have. Not for what he couldn't see, but for what he did have. The disciples, what would they have been thinking at that point in time? Again, was their faith arise? Did they remember the miracles that they had performed a few weeks earlier? The miracle was in the hand of Jesus. And as he gave that to the disciples, they were then part of the miracle, being able to distribute that to the others in need. And I believe that, what Jesus did way back then, what God did, that power, that miracle, he's still wanting to do that today. Today, tomorrow, for every day that we are alive, we can be the distributors of miracles by providing something that might seem insignificant to us. And it might not be something tangible like this. It could be a word of encouragement. It could be ringing someone up on the phone. Maybe it is something tangible, like buying someone a coffee. Saying hello to a homeless person, it could bring them great comfort. Praying with someone. We're created to be distributors of miracles. And you think about it, Jesus could have miraculously even provided food in everyone's pockets at the time. But that's not what he chose. He chose to partner with the disciples to be the distributors of the miracle. A number of years ago, in one of the churches that Phil and I were attending, we had a mentor friend of ours who did some stuff, caused a lot of pain to a lot of people, and it grieved us, because the friendship was no longer there, and we'd lost this mentor, and the church had lost a great leader. And we were feeling, pretty down, pretty low about it. And we were running a youth group at the time, and they just gathered around us. They saw our pain. They gathered around us and they blessed us with a meal voucher, which was beautiful, for us to be able to go away together. But more than the blessing of the voucher, what really spoke volumes to us was that they cared enough to actually purchase the voucher and kind of send us on our way. Like, we knew we were loved. We knew we were cared for. And it was such a beautiful, blessing for us. So I believe in that instance, Jesus, he used the team. They simply distributed the miracle and the wonder of heaven, bringing healing to our hearts through their gift of the meal voucher. Now, do you think that the boy knew that his sharing of food would meet the needs of the people around him? Here's something for all of you science and maths lovers. So the 5 loaves and 2 fish, they were multiplied by division, This is crazy how crazy heaven is. And then augmented or made more by subtraction, giving away. Does that make sense? When I read this, I'm sorry I can't quote. This is from Google somewhere, Dr. Google. But when I read this, I'm going, hang on a minute, hold the phone, let me just read this. So the food, it was only a small amount, was multiplied by division and then added to by subtraction. Crazy. Anyway, back to the story, when they had all had enough to eat, Jesus said to his disciples, gather all the pieces that were left over. Let nothing be wasted. Everyone was satisfied, even the little boy. And the fragments that were left over, they weren't just the crumbs for the birds, they were like proper fragments. 12 baskets. And I wonder if that was like so that there was one for every disciple, so that none of them felt left out of the miracle. Don't know. But again, I wonder when I read the Bible, when I read these stories, that's why I like to go a bit deeper, and that's why I'm encouraging you guys, that when you read the Bible and some of these stories, go a little bit deeper and ponder, because God can unpack some amazing, little revelations to you. So they gathered them and filled 12 large baskets with the leftover pieces. Jesus was just showing off, I'm sure. Just showing off his extravagance, his abundance. Jesus is never meagre in his miracles. Just recently, our life group's been praying for us for more work. We have a fencing business. And again, one of them just had the word that God was going to trickle the work from heaven. We're going, okay. And sure enough, the trickle came, and it's like we are now booked up till October at this point. At the point in time, we only had maybe a month's worth. And it's just, again, we would have been happy for a month's worth of blessing, of provision and hope. But God just goes, I'm just going to bless you guys. So it's like, well, God, thank you, but hold off a little bit now, thank you. Anyway, but God loves to give to us. And, we're blessed so that we can bless others. In 1 John 4:19, it says, we love because he first loved us. We give because we've been given to. So later on, Jesus is talking to his disciples about the kingdom of heaven, and he goes, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom I have prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, you clothed me. And I was sick, and you looked after me. And I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And they're going, Jesus, when did we ever do this? And he goes, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, you did it to me. When we care for another, we're actually caring unto Jesus. Now, I want to just share a few things about how this family, our Southern Lights family, has blessed our Southern Lights family and beyond over the years. Some of the ways where resources have been shared with each other was maybe just something, I'll start off with something smaller, visiting someone who's not well in their home or in hospital, making a meal if they're unwell or recently had a baby, continuously praying for sick people, even maybe a neighbour to come to know Jesus. And it's so wonderful to hear the results of those and to celebrate those miracles. Something as simple as buying a packet of nappies for a single mum whose child is in hospital, just so that she can remain in hospital with her child, shows great care. It showed great care, for that mum. A bit like for me, and I know there's been many others as well, within small groups, life groups, where people have prayed maybe for provision, it might be job or finances, and God has miraculously provided that. One time there was a disabled mum here, and she couldn't afford a special electric bed. But the greater family got together. They saw the need and they met the need. Totally blessed her, blessed the family, because they just couldn't afford it. Another time, money was given so that one of the young guys in the church who couldn't afford to do the discipling course that we run here called Accelerate, money was given enough so that he could do that. Again, he didn't ask for it. It was just a beautiful blessing. Cars have been given away to those in need. Money was given so that a mum who was sleep deprived could have a Thermomix just to make her life a little bit more simple. But it's not about the money, because all those different acts, whether it's money, a word, a prayer, they all matter to Jesus. Now, as a pastoral team, we want to make it a little bit easier for people to care for each other in our local church. So we've looked at our old Connect group model, our old small group model, and we decided it was quite restrictive, quite closed, a little bit limited in ways. It served a beautiful purpose of bringing people together. But we found this new model through the Saddleback Church, and so I want to just unpack it a little bit for you, because that, again, is part of this life group series that we're, wanting you to understand the differences and what it is, the benefits of belonging to a life group. So under the older model, like the leader had to complete our acceleration course. It couldn't just be anyone. You had to be a leader. You were the one who provided the pastoral care to the group. We, as a pastoral team, we allocated the people to your group. We told you when to meet on a Wednesday night, fortnightly. The people joining the group, they had to have done a course called DNA. And the groups were quite close. There was almost like there was these hurdles that people had to jump. And we were quite protective of who was in our groups for various reasons. But that's what we believed was the best model at that point in time. God's really been changing, and talking to the pastors and stuff. And that's why we've gone to this newer model based on the Saddleback Church. And in the new one, virtually anyone can lead or host a group. If you have a heart for people, if you can open up a venue, a cafe, someone's home, if you can, I've had a mental blank, the S. Who knows what the S host? Share a curriculum? Yep. Oh no, I've gone blank. Okay, I didn't have this in my notes, I'm so sorry. But anyway, almost anyone can lead. Now, you are not required to give all the pastoral care support to your team. It's up to the group to pastorally care for each other. And sometimes, there might be times where you need to go and have more specialist care. And so we've made available, pastoral care, pastoral appointments with some of the pastors for those times when you just need a little bit more, someone with a little bit more maybe spiritual experience. So that's, on offer. These new life groups, they can be affinity-based, friendship-based. Could be a group of mums, after they've been to the gym or something. Or it could be a group of guys, businessmen maybe, doing it early one morning. Again, we don't want to tell you when or where you have to meet. It's really up to the groups to find a time and a place that suits the group. We love it and promote and advocate, the weekly getting together. Now, here's a little secret. So Phil and I, we didn't actually want to be part of doing a weekly meeting because we're just like, seriously, we've got so many other things to do. Life is so busy. But we thought, you know what? We're going to give it a 6-week go and just see, how can we complain about something if we don't actually give it a go first? So we gave it a go, and what we found is that it became part of our routine and just, what we were doing. And by meeting together with that group of people on a weekly basis, we got to know, we got to have the little extra conversations with them. Instead of just doing it fortnightly, we got to know more about what was going on, and we could stand together with each other and pray and rejoice and just get to know them. And we felt very safe as well, just sharing our lives with them, and they likewise with us. That last point down the bottom of the new life groups where it just says some groups are open and others are closed. What that means is that, obviously, if there's a group of young adult guys who are gathering together. That's closed, in effect, to an older woman like myself. Like, man, I would kill their joy, I would kill their fun, I would try to join in, mind you, but I wouldn't get their stuff, their memes and whatever. In the same way, if there was a group of mums who were all gathering together, or older people, it's best that, some of the groups are more closed in that regards. Just by the way, if there are any couples out there kind of in their 30s, 40s, we are looking for a couple to lead or to give it a go for 6 weeks to host a life group for a few other young family mums and dads. So I'll just put that one out there, and I'll just be up at the welcome desk later if that's kind of stirring on your heart. And I'd love to be able to talk with you about anything today that I've said, or even if you've got questions, you might want to join a life group because you're not in one, or you might actually want to go, you know what, I'll give it a crack at hosting one of these groups in this new model. Imagine our church and local community if we all embraced loving your neighbour as yourself. If we all embraced they gave to everyone as they had need. Imagine if we were the ones distributing the miracles of heaven to those in our local church family, the wider body of Christ, the local community, to those in need. So just as I begin to wrap up, I want you to think about, what are your 5 loaves? What are your 2 fish that you can share with another? What talent or time, treasure do you have that you can give back to God or distribute to another so that God can bless someone else? I want you to commit, this is what we're asking everyone to commit to do one act of sharing this week to show a non-family member that you care. Could be a phone call, could be a meal, something practical. That's between you and God. Each one of us have gifts, and the greatest gift we can share with someone else is the good news, the gospel message. And maybe that's what God wants you to do. And, if you don't know Jesus personally here today or online, please come and talk to me. Talk to somebody. Because that is the most wonderful gift that can be distributed to another person. If you're online, just contact us, please, and someone will respond. So I'm going to ask the band now to just sing that song again, that Reckless Love song. And as they do, I just want you to focus on the words of the song. So you can sing along if you want to. You can close your eyes if you want to. You can stand, you can sit, you can come out the front. It's totally up to you. This is just between you and God. But, as the song is being sung, I just ask that you would open up your heart, allow God to soften your heart more, and open your eyes up more to see and interact with those around you, to be the distributors of heaven's miracles here on earth. Maybe you might need to repent for hoarding the miracles of heaven. But, that's between you and God. Jesus wants to encounter each one of us now with his beautiful and amazing love. So let's just close our eyes. Just be free to respond the way that you want to respond. And after the band has sung this song for a little bit, we'll close the service. If you need more prayer, please come out the front.